Hi, this is Iris Grimm again, founder of balancedphysician.com. Welcome back to part 4 of my 5-part video series on the Physician Retention Initiative. In the last video, I talked with you about the 3 reasons that I hear most of the time from physicians why they left an organization. And I ask for these reasons right up front in my work with them to ensure that the mistakes won't be repeated again. Do you remember which ones I mentioned? First was personal family reasons, where many times an organization has very little to no influence other than asking the direct questions before the physicians get hired. The second reason is cultural misfit and the absence of a cohesive, supportive culture amongst the physicians. And the third reason is broken promises, where they feel that the organization deliver what they promised. Now let's move on and talk some more about turnover numbers, because numbers sometimes create a better perspective on a situation. Now listen to this. Research has shown that physicians in the first years of practice have the highest turnover rates overall, and turnover peaks between years 2 and 3. But if you can retain a new physician for at least 5 years, they are more likely to stay for the long haul. A key finding of the Seika survey showed that more than half, to be exact 54% of physicians who leave their medical groups do so within the first 5 years. It should also be noted that sometimes the decision to leave is often made as early as the first 3 to 5 months. 54%. Did you expect the number be so high? And again, the decision is often made as early as the first 3 to 5 months. And so the question becomes, can an organization actually do something to turn this around, or at least to minimize the turnover? Well, one of the principles I teach my clients and that I want you to consider is full responsibility. Now, what do I mean by that? If an organization takes responsibility for its recruitment process, for its retention process, and for its turnover results, and realizes that they are the cause in the matter, it actually creates a powerful situation where they can put new parameters in place to improve the situation. However, if the organization blames it on the physician, the budget, the healthcare market, the circumstances, and they don't recognize the investment in a physician yet, they will remain stuck and the turnover numbers will stay high. Retaining outstanding physicians has to become a high priority, and organizations have to be innovative in order to stay competitive and to stay attractive. And so most organizations recognize the value of hiring a superstar physician, yet very few invest the time and energy to create intentional strategies that contribute to retention. Which now leads me to my final point. What can be done to improve the turnover? And I want to mention 3 solutions now, and the 4th solution will be presented in the final video. First, let me start out with the goodbye. And what I mean by that is the interview with the leaving physicians. I have asked many hospital administrators what they are learning in the exit interviews with physicians. And I'm amazed how few of them actually lead exit interviews where they ask for the reasons of leaving. Now I know that some people lie and some physicians may not want to express the true reasons for leaving in a conversation, but how about creating an exit survey that could be sent out by the organization or by a third-party organization to gain some data about the overall impression of the organization? Let them know that you want their true opinion so that you can learn from them. If you don't learn from the leaving physicians, how can you make improvements for the newly hired physicians? Sure, You can't consider all feedback, but if you hear a theme coming up over and over again, it is important taking a closer look at it. Now here's one important point though to consider. When you are the interviewer, you want to stay with open-ended questions. And instead of asking them the why question, such as why are you leaving, or why didn't you talk with us about this, etc., right? Ask them for the reasons they are leaving. So in other way, what are the reasons that you are leaving, and what are your reasons? What are the reasons you never talked with us about this? And here's the reason why. When we tend to ask why questions, they can come across rather judgmental. And you don't want the physicians feel like they have to defend themselves. Also, you are just there to make notes and ask deeper questions. Don't defend the organization. Don't say, oh, you got this all wrong. Don't come up with excuses why something didn't happen. At the end, it doesn't matter anymore, unless, of course, you could ask the physician first whether they would reconsider the position if certain improvements can be made. Once you have the information, have a meeting with upper management or department leadership to discuss your insights and ensure that the same mistakes won't happen again and again and again. So my first suggestion is improve the exit. Have an exit interview and consistently improve it. My second suggestion is commit to improving the interview process. When was the last time the interview process was updated? How successful is your interview process? And how many physician turnovers can be traced back to a mistake in the interview process? Another one is screen for fit. Ask the direct and sometimes tough questions. Be inquisitive. Use behavioral interviewing to determine whether a candidate's motivations, values, and past actions are truly compatible with the organization's mission and goals. Find candidates who will fit in and support your practice culture. And be honest about your culture too. If you only mention the positives and portray your organization or department as if it has it all together, you may come across fake, and physicians may become suspicious. And so be honest and also mention some of the flaws the organization is working on improving. I once worked with a physician who went to the hospital undercover after she completed the interview and before she signed the contract. And what she told me is she put on some casual street clothes and a baseball hat, and she walked through the hospital, asked questions to nurses there and asked questions to administrators that were in the hallway. She asked questions to patients, and then she also watched interactions between patients and staff. And that was very important for her to see all this so that she could recognize whether what was mentioned to her in the interview was actually real and whether the organization lived by the values that they mentioned in the interview process or whether it was fake. So my second solution or suggestion was constantly improve the interview process. And my third suggestion is onboard. Effective onboarding increases physician engagement and helps reinforce positive cultural norms. Formalize programs with written guidelines and goals, assigned mentors, and adequate time allocation are key to retaining new hires. Onboarding is not a one-time process. It's not a one-time event, but it is a process. Stay in communication, particularly in the first critical 3 to 5 months. Unfortunately, here is what I hear from many recruiters. They say to me, Iris, once the physician is on board, we only have so much. We have only so much to follow up with them. We are off to the next position that needs to be filled. They are not our responsibility anymore. And I know HR many times is so overworked and understaffed that they don't have the time either. Unfortunately, it sometimes looks like a lose situation. However, here's an idea, considering that you just looked at the numbers on what physician turnover costs your organization. And if your organization created a part-time position for someone who does nothing else but be that liaison, stay in contact and follow up with newly hired physicians for the first few months, provide them resources, stay in contact with the family, and provide the family resources for successful integration into the community. And if that additional service could save you at least a couple of turnovers a year, do you think it would be worth it? Considering that we just looked at the numbers, or we looked at the numbers in the first video of how much turnover actually costs. Many administrators know that it is a big mistake that physicians are left on their own, but they don't have the resources in-house to provide this kind of support. So in summary, let me point out that the first 3 to 5 months are super duper critical when it comes to long-term retention, because that is the time where physicians test drive a practice, where they determine whether they can work with the administration long-term, or whether it is a pain in the butt to get things changed or adjusted. How can you support them in this critical period? Is by fine-tuning the interview process and finding out what could be a possible deal breaker for the physician, and then ensure that your organization covers this critical item. And by having a solid onboarding process in place where physicians feel supported in the first few months of their employment. And so in my fifth and final video, I will share with you another powerful tool that your organization can implement to increase the physician retention and save your organization millions of dollars in the process. So stay tuned for the final email to arrive in your inbox in a couple of days. Bye for now.